Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. So I heard a commercial on the way home from work. It was like a radio commercial, and strangely, it wasn't supposed to do this. It wasn't supposed to be some like high intellectual commercial or anything like that. But it really actually made me think about something, and I was curious on your thoughts on this. It was a Buffalo Wild Wings commercial.
Oh my God. Okay.
And it was funny just the way it said it is they were like, you go to work all day and then come home at night and make dinner. He's like, why are you doing our job when you get home from your job? We work the nights, we work the weekends. We don't sit during the day and just do your job for fun, do we? And it was like to basically say, go out to eat, let us deal with the hassle of making the food, type of thing. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a funny commercial. And I started to think about it. And, I would hear a lot of people are all into, the CSAs and all that stuff. We have CSAs, ourselves.
What's a CSA?
CSA, the I don't know, consumer share agreement, something share agreement. It's like, it's a co-op. It's what you would call a co-op.
Okay.
So we go to every 2 weeks, we get our pickup of our fresh, fruits and vegetables, mainly vegetables, and, meats and stuff and eggs and all that from the actual farms in the outer Virginia area, not, the DC area. There's not as many farms in downtown DC. And so I started thinking about the concept that, they always talk about, supporting the farmers and, how farmers is their livelihood and you want to support the local farmers. And I don't get me wrong. I like that concept. But I really started to think about it, and I'm like, these guys are talking about, doing their job in this stupid commercial that I found kind of witty or whatever. What, is it actually, who's the greater good when you're just dealing with jobs and employment?
What do you mean?
To purchase from a farm, a local farm, to support your local farmer, or would it actually be a more greater good for employment purposes to go out to eat every night? Let's assuming you can afford it. Do you employ more people because you go out to eat and it's like a restaurant that, however many people work at this restaurant, however many people work at the places that, supply the restaurant with food? What chain actually is the greater good when it comes to employment numbers?
I feel like you're doing both. I hate skeletons whenever they're stuck in spider webs because you can't see them. I I guess when you go out to eat, you're doing both, right? It depending on where the source is for the restaurant.
I'm even talking going out to eat at a Buffalo Wild Wings, like, because that was what the commercial was for. Like, someplace that's not getting farm fresh,
Yeah, no, I don't think that's the greater good.
But
But okay, so where does that money go? Let's think about this. So if you invest in a local farm, you're investing in not just like the farmer, but like everyone he employs and all that. And where does that money go? That money might go to like Buffalo Wild Wings, right?
Oh yeah, of course. The money's going to, at the end of the day, the profit's going to Buffalo Wild Wings. That's where.
No. I'm talking about if you support a local farm. I'm talking about the farmer might go eat at Buffalo Wild Wings. Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, they could go eat it. That's the ironic twist I was not expecting, is that the farmer is going to eat a Buffalo Wild Wings while I'm trying to support him by buying his
right.
meat. Yeah, I guess.
But if you just go to Buffalo Wild Wings, who are you supporting? Drug dealers.
And your proof on that is what?
Anyone that works in the fast food industry buys drugs.
Bullshit.
It's not. No, there's no bullshit.
Bullshit. How long did I work at McDonald's for?
You've never bought drugs?
No, never.
You're the exception to the rule.
And I would probably agree that I would be an exception to your standard fast food worker who, any people in the restaurant industry, I do think are a higher percentage of them do use illicit drugs and things like that. I would agree with you on that statement. But you can't blanket the statement out.
I mean, I was being a little bit. I'm not being very serious.
I know. So point valid in a way. I get, but at the same time, I really do want my questioning of this argument like explored.
I mean, I think I wasn't prepared. I feel like this is one of those things that like
I wasn't prepared to have this thought process after listening to this commercial.
Well, yeah, but I'm not prepared to answer, and I feel like I could do it. I feel like I could do this question justice with the right preparation.
Well, but the problem is the right preparation might also lead you down a different path of thinking, because I don't want to start talking about the economic impacts or the environmental impacts and things like that. I'm trying.
Well, that's where one of my thoughts went is like people always talk about like farms and like cows and these sort of things.
Absolutely, that's one of my thought processes as well. I'm trying to think of it from a strategically and strictly employment numbers standpoint.
So you're saying who employs more people?
Well, my dollars spent toward a restaurant versus my dollars spent toward a local farm. Am I allowing more people to be employed with one or the other?
I think farms definitely going to have more employees than a typical restaurant.
You think so?
I do.
See, I would disagree with that. I would think a farm has way less employees than a typical restaurant.
I mean, it depends on the size of the farm, obviously, but I mean, I feel like farms are no longer mom and pop operations these days. They've grown to the point
where farms are almost only mom and pop operations anymore because there's so few of them. Nobody wants to be in that business.
Well, that's the thing is there's so much fewer of them, but they're doing way more than whenever they were mom and pop. At least around here, farms are not mom and pop operations around here anymore. They're big places, and you're not just employing the people that work on the farm. There's logistics involved and stuff like that to get the products where they need to go. So it's not just.
And that's what I wanted to add into this. Is that part I do want to add into it, the whole logistics channel. Because, of course, there's a huge logistics channel to a farm, but there's also a huge logistics channel to restaurants.
Yeah, that's true.
And it really started making me wonder do I really just straight up employment numbers, do I employ more people if I go out to eat every night than I do by buying my buying my produce from a farm and
I still think it depends on where you're eating out.
The what?
Like if you're eating at Buffalo Wild Wings every night, I think you're gonna have a bad time anyways.
But that's a different part of the argument.
Well, sure.
It's what I would say in my field of work that I do. You're talking out of scope right now. Let's remain in scope, sir.
Well, that's the problem with this line of questioning is
that's the problem with any line of questioning anywhere is like you could always take it to somewhere seemingly unrelated that probably is not as unrelated as people think, but it's not. Because
if you're eating out every night at someone that is making places farm fresh from local farms, then yeah, you're probably double dipping here. You're basically the guy that makes Twitch streams and then puts them up on YouTube because you're doing both. You're supporting the farms and you're supporting your local restaurants
on YouTube. How I got burned.
That lag.
Burned. Yeah, I got burned because of the lag. Like there was two zombies above me, and
yeah. So
I'm trying to go back and try. Do you have wood on you?
Yes. Yeah.
I have some.
I've been getting it from the.
I was going back to try to find the shaft again. Not the shaft.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Do you have food? I've gone through my food.
I have food. Here I have those guys.
Thank you. So yeah, no, I think but I mean, I think that when you take it a step further, what's more cost effective for your family? And I think cooking at home is going to be more cost effective for your family no matter what.
I mean, and that's probably true. I was trying to, and it's funny because it's so hard to have this type of argument just in general because I'm trying to take out all of the outside factors to boil it down to straight up numbers of employed. But so I want to say, let's assume I can afford to eat out every day. But then it's like, well, then you could also assume that you can just give extra money to farmers to help sustain their land as well. So
right,
like
just donate to farmers.
Right. It's one of those things that you can't have the perfect argument about because it just goes. I would love to see just a bare bones numbers of all the logistics channels involved in a restaurant. And if I spend $10 on a meal at a restaurant, how many people have to be employed to do that versus if I spend $10 at the farmer's market? I mean, you got to think to know that difference.
I think the biggest issue or the biggest thing to talk about here is where's the money going. Whenever you're spending money locally at a farm, it's staying local. That's the local money. When you spend money at Buffalo Wild Wings,
Well, like you said,
goes,
unless the farmer's just going out to eat up B-dubs.
well, that's true. Whenever you spend money at any chain restaurant, the money goes wherever their home office is.
Right.
So you're not even keeping that money in your state. And the employees aren't really the ones making the money, anyways. It's the corporation.
But the employees make some money based on the employees wouldn't get paid if they didn't have enough people in there, eating food to stay in business.
Sure, but it's pennies on the dollar compared to what the total profit is. Like if you're $10 meal, the employee makes whatever you tip them, and if the type of people that only tip 20%, then I mean that's what I'm trying to say average, but so like a $10 meal.
That's an interesting thing to add into there. You get your co-op, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't anymore. They went out of business and they took my money with them. Assholes.
So you employed nobody. So case in point, your money would have been better spent at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it definitely was because, like, the way mine worked is you paid a certain amount every month, and then you ordered what you wanted from their website, and then whenever they went out of business, they just up and like shut down the site and disappeared. And I still had like $200 in credit, so they just disappeared between my $200.
Oh, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, dick move.
But I was more thinking of it from the perspective of have you ever tipped them?
The food co-op?
Yeah.
No,
because neither have I.
They're skimming off the top. Like I know how much they paid for some of that shit, and they're doing fine.
But you know how much Buffalo Wild Wings pays for some of their shit, and they're doing fine. But you still tip the waiter.
Well, the waiter's not even making minimum wage.
I agree with you. I'm not saying not to tip the waiter. I'm not saying that at all. I tip. I'm a very healthy tipper. I even tipped somebody for my friend was in DC this weekend, and we went to a restaurant, and we had pretty actually shitty service. Like it was just super, super, super slow. They didn't seem very attentive, but there also was like two waitresses in this restaurant for like, there's like 50 people in there. So she was getting very, very annoyed because she expected to get much better service in an area like DC than from Detroit, Michigan, and was not getting that service that she wanted. And I ended up picking up the bill just because I was being nice for a friend of mine that was in town, and I still tipped very healthily because I could see the situation in a different way, but that was not necessarily when you're supposed to tip well.
Yeah.
But the whole tipping aspect of it, I guess, kind of throws a wrinkle into that, because when I go out to eat, one of the reasons I am offering livelihood to somebody else is because of my tip, not because of what I'm actually paying for. The food, the logistics channel.
None of that matters to the server.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. Or the cook. Think about the cook. Cook's back there making whatever minimum wage is in your state. What is it? $12?
Like probably 7 something. I actually don't even know what it is.
Fucking hell. I probably sound like a fucking idiot to anyone listed. $12 minimum wage.
Yeah, well, they're trying to raise it to 15. Like that was the whole.
Well, I know they were. That's what it probably should be. But I figured DC it had to be 12. No, if it's really 7 in DC, that's absurd.
Yeah, I'd have to see what it is in DC, because I've never worked a minimum wage job in DC, so I don't know. Trust me, I knew the laws in Michigan when I was there, and every time they changed the minimum wage, you know how many times I got fucked over, and I say that in like loose terms because I still got more money, so it's really hard to say I got fucked over when I was getting more money. But I worked at McDonald's for a long time when I was younger, as we've established, and after the first like 2 years that I worked there, I had gotten raises to the point where, due to good work performance and doing the closing shifts and all, to get paid extra money, to where I was making 60 cents over minimum wage. And when you're talking fast food, making 60 cents over minimum wage is pretty significantly over minimum wage for a fast food employee.
Right.
Then they raised minimum wage.
And shit. Yeah. And you didn't get nothing. Yeah.
No, we actually didn't get our so my I got the highest possible performance marks I was supposed to get, so I should have had the highest performance raise, which would have brought me up to 5 cents below the new minimum wage. So they raised us up to minimum wage and said we got an extra raise because it was still 5 cents more than we should have gotten based on our performance metrics.
What now? Sorry, I was about to die. I couldn't hear I couldn't think what you were saying.
So,
what happened to you?
Essentially, I got my performance review, and it was performance-based raises, and you got the good old either 0 cents, 10 cents, or 25 cents, depending on your performance. Those were your three options. Every, I can't remember if it was 6 months or a year. Well, I got the highest performance marks and was marked up to get a 25-cent raise. One of like 5 people in the restaurant that were going to get a 25-cent raise, the highest raise you could get. Well, that 25-cent raise took me to 5 cents below the new minimum wage that they were implementing, that the state was implementing. So they gave
you the raise, and then they gave you another 5-cent raise, basically?
They gave me minimum wage and said that it was even more than the performance, than the raise would have been. And I think I still got I got an extra like 10 cents an hour because I was a closer. So as somebody who did closing shifts, you got extra money because you were expected to work until like 2 o'clock in the morning and stuff on the weekends. But I was starting out the same that any brand new employee doing a closing shift would have made.
Like in these situations, I feel like it should be like this, like, Jesus Christ. This like spreadsheet.
It should be
of
Jesus Christ coming in there.
It should be Jesus Christ. I'm telling you, I live in the Bible Belt, and I know when something should be Jesus Christ, and this is one of those occasions. But it should be one of those things where it's like, all right, you've worked here this long, you've received this X amount in raises, $7, whatever. I just throw a number out. It's obviously not $7. But if minimum wage goes up this much, the amount you make should go up to minimum wage plus whatever raises you've already received in the past.
That's not the way it works. And I'll be honest, I can kind of understand why it doesn't work that way. And it's partially because, you're already McDonald's. If you're already a company that is based on paying your employees a minimum wage or around minimum wage, if the minimum wage increases, you don't really have the money to sustain that anymore without raising prices of your product significantly. And in a chain restaurant like that, it's really hard to be able to, you can't be the McDonald's that has the dollar menu that's actually $1.30.
Right.
Type of deal. So I get it from that perspective as well, but you're really just fucking over your employees by not paying them, good wages in the first place. It's a whole, like, the system is just not designed well to deal with. Like, minimum wage almost shouldn't be a thing. Minimum wage should be one of those things that nobody should ever get paid even close to this low, but this is legally the lowest limit versus, well, since minimum wage is this, we'll make sure we pay you that.
I mean, but you know what? I think that's what you said minimum wage should be is what I think it's supposed to be. That's what minimum wage is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, holy shit, if you're paying someone other than this, you're an asshole. But everyone's taking it as, well, this is how much we can get by with paying you legally, so this is what we'll pay you legally.
As opposed to 10% of your workforce should be allowed to make this low of a wage.
Yeah, honestly, that should be how it's implemented. It should be.
But then how shitty do you feel when you're that 10%?
Well, sure, but I mean, I think minimum wage, because I think minimum wage was meant to be like starting out, entry level. You're still in high school.
You know nothing. You've never worked a day in your entire life. Nobody knows what your work ethic is.
Right. You shouldn't have 30-year-olds making minimum wage unless they literally have never worked a day in their life. Like, basically, if you have work experience, you should not be getting paid minimum wage.
I would agree with you. You're not going to hear any argument from me. It is a messed up system. But then at the same time, you're going to have all these companies who say, like, then that's the whole argument against it, is if you raise the minimum wage, the companies couldn't sustain in the current state that they're in. You'd probably have a decent amount of companies, especially the non-chain restaurants, the mom and pop shops, who pay employees minimum wage because they're really not making that much money, like, in general. If you raise the minimum wage by, whatever it is now to $15 an hour, they'd probably have to, go out of business or raise their prices to the point where they would push them out of business because nobody would eat there anymore.
Right. I mean, if we do a national minimum wage of $15, there's a lot of places. I don't know what's going to happen to the McDonald's of America?
I think McDonald's would live.
Yeah, but I feel like they're going to.
I don't
raise their prices.
McDowell's would live. Did you ever see? Do you ever see Trading Places with Eddie Murphy? Or no, that was Coming to America. It was Coming to America, not Trading Places.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so they worked at the. He was the janitor at that restaurant called McDowell's, and the guy kept saying, "It's not McDonald's, it's McDowell's. They have the Big Mac, we have the Big Mick." Like, it was just, it was a rip off of McDonald's completely, but it wasn't part of the McDonald's like franchise. So
Right.
McDonald's would be fine, but McDowell's would go out of business.
Well, I feel like McDonald's would even raise their prices to the point. Like, I feel like nationwide, we're going to raise
It's on
prices.
your side.
No, not the insurance, but like we will raise prices to the point where you've changed minimum wage to this now, but everything is now this cost. So you did nothing. You know what I'm saying? If everyone has this much more money now, we need to take it from you.
Well, and then the problem really comes who actually then gets hurt by the minimum wage. It's all the middle class people who aren't going to get a raise because minimum wage went up, but everything around them just drastically increased in price.
Right.
And that is
the people that are already making $15 an hour are now fucked, basically.
Yeah. And the people making $20 an hour who were thinking they were comfortable and saving money for the future now are essentially making, just over minimum wage, and they feel like they've accomplished nothing in their life anymore.
Yeah. I really never thought about this very much whenever like Bernie was talking about how we should have a national $15 minimum wage, but maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should leave that alone.
Well, but the problem is if you leave it alone, then we run into the state that we're, currently in with people who who live by minimum wage, quote unquote, live by minimum wage, don't really live. Like they survive is what they do.
Right.
And like, so yeah. It's one of those, it's like healthcare. It's the impossible thing to really solve just by talking about it, and that's all anybody does. But it's because people get tripped up because there's no real good way to attack it. And there's probably there probably is a good way to attack it. You and I aren't going to come up with it in a 30-minute video. Well, actually, I'll be honest, we'll probably come closer than some of the politicians that, tackle some of these issues, but we at least understand the issues with it and can agree that there's issues no matter how you look at it. Whereas a lot of people, this is where the whole party line thing comes in. A lot of people are like, no, we must raise it because it's better for them. And the other people are like, no, but it's bad for everybody else. But nobody can see the other side of the issue. They only argue.
Well, I think that's the hardest part of politicians is they haven't lived in the real world in such a long time. They don't know what it's like.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I deal with that in nursing all the time. Anybody who goes out of nursing into leadership, like myself included, and I'm losing out, is I no longer remember what it's like to actually work the bedside. And we so many times have people like, we'll come up with patient safety events, and people are like, how could the nurse possibly let this happen? And it's like, have you not worked the fucking bedside ever in your life? Like, this happens all the time. Not because somebody's trying to do something wrong, because they're trying to keep 8 people alive all at once. Some things slip through the cracks, despite whether there being regulations around them or not. They're trying as hard as they can to get everything done. But you forgot this when you went into leadership and haven't taken care of a patient. And
I never thought about nursing like this, but it's basically like a waitress trying to get all the refills done. Sometimes you just don't get all the tables.
Yeah. That's exactly what it comes down to. You try your best, but your best just might not be able to make it that day because you physically don't have enough ability to take care of everybody who needs it. And people look at you like you're the terrible animal because you let something bad happen to somebody when really there's no way you could have prevented it because of everything that was going on. Yeah. And that comes down to a whole bigger system issue with, taking care of too many people, too high of acuity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But nobody wants to look at it from that perspective. They want to blame the nurse. Personal bias speaking there.
Yeah. Did you do your stream this week?
For like 15 or 20 minutes or so because we ended up getting called out to a third alarm on a fire. We ended up going out there and staging for 2.5 hours and then coming back to the station. So I started my stream at like 11. I tried to use a different program. Do you do any IRL streaming from your phone at all?
No.
Oh man, I tried to use a different program than the Twitch app, and it was Streamlabs has one, so you can still do your overlays and all that stuff. And
really?
the program itself seems great, but it kept dropping audio, whereas the Twitch app has a lower bit rate on the video, but it never drops audio, and probably to like compensate for it, but you can't do any overlays or anything. So I got really lost in like what is really the best way to do this anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've never done. I mean, I used Periscope once or twice, but not like it was just like in the car sort of thing, and there wasn't any overlays or anything. Though Streamlabs does have Periscope stuff now too, so I don't know if that'd be any help to you.
I mean, I don't know. I just want to get. I want to get all my overlays and stuff. Being you died.
I sure did.
Do you have any idea where you're at?
God no.
Because I don't know.
God no.
I don't know if I have your timer going.
You probably do.
Should
God, I thought I was like at full health there. What happened to
should I
me?
try to escape here as quickly as possible?
God, I'll never find that.
I mean, I'm still running around the cave. I wish I knew where you were at in relation to me to even tell you, like, put your shit in the chest or...
I was still finding new stuff. Like I just found a new spider
I'm
spawner.
running around some blackness as well.
You can't hit F3 on the screen, can you? No.
I mean, I can.
Well, yeah, no, I was trying to see if I could tell you where I was, basically, but no. Man, that's awful. Well, we're out of time, too. So.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah. See you guys later.
See ya.